Dilly Dilly. Science may never explain the origins of Dilly Dilly. On second thought, that was a fucking stupid statement. Fucking ringing in my ears. Seabiscuit. Dilly Dilly has appeared in Bud Light television commercials all across the globe, culminating in a set of Super Bowl specialty ads customized for fans of both teams. The phrase caught on ASAP like flies to festive, delicious honey, but you know this already. There's no way that you don't. Everyone in your family has said the phrase time and time again by now. Your mother, your father, your cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, pet turtle. It's a regular old full house of the stuff. Dilly Dilly indeed. As for me, I live in a dumpster. It isn't optimal, but it has a lid, and the trash man... Shit, I mean trash person, okay? Sorry, alright? I said I'm sorry. Knows that I'm in there. So, he... Shit, gender-neutral pronoun. They don't compact me or crush me alive or anything. Kind of a nice guy. I give up. One night, while I was using a discarded ugly Randolph the Christmas reindeer sweater as a warmer, I realized something. A DVD? No, never mind, it was just a coaster. Oh well. Disgruntled and disheveled, I went back to sleep. 5 hours later, and don't ask me how I read the sun for a time, I was awoken by the force of blunt object. I rummaged through the pockets of my thrift store cardigan, ripped out my trustworthy Buddy Holly glasses, and in stylish perusal, I noticed it then and there. Size 69, puce and blue, marmalade smears, Fat Albert is a real man, he's buried alive in Grant's tomb. The naming label of the VHS tape said it all. The Looney Tunes show episode 1990 Dead Inside, Dilly Dilly, STDaffy. At this point I know what you're thinking. Good groundhogs thrive in shallow holes. I brushed the rat feces off the VHS tape, ruminated about my ex-wife Bernice, and shoved the thing into a well-sewn cardigan pocket. The tape, not my ex-wife. I didn't entirely know why, given that as a homeless person there wasn't much I could do with the VHS tape. VHS tapes aren't edible, and furthermore I didn't even own a friggin' VCR. Perhaps I could pawn the tape for food, I thought. Use it to purchase a steak dinner? Maybe even see a show? The only show you'll be seeing is Untimely Death, Erdrick, the voice inside my head threatened me. Oh, cruel fate. I gave my inner voice the finger and hopped, skipped, and jumped my way to the local Walmart. Optimistic and drunken off of Bud Light, Dilly Dilly. Sir, you're homeless. Fuck off before I call the cops, the pochmarked teenage usher cracked in a prepubescent voice. Knowing when I'd been defeated, I turned around to depart until he saw it in my pocket. Nice cardigan, the usher greeter, Cobain, remarked. I'll trade access to the store to you for it. Well, hot diggity dog, I ravenously tore the garment right off my flesh, revealing that I was wearing nothing underneath. Never mind, Mr. Cobain asserted in envy of my killer physique. I'll just take the tape. Realizing a good deal when I sense one, being a retired car salesman and former Calvinist pastor, I tossed the tape to the man, refused to put my clothes back on, and merrily dabbed my way through the store. After stealing a pint of delicious Sam's Club pistachio and Tide Pod ice cream, I saw something that would change my life forever. So horrible. So horrifying. So sad. Kurt was dead. Highly realistic blood, guts, sinew, and skull littered the floor, as well as a discarded shotgun, pile of towels, and a note. What the fuck? I muttered to myself in awe. I didn't know how to read, so I picked up the note and had a customer service representative in Home and Garden Decor read it off to me. Don't watch the tape, Bada, he muttered under his breath. He stretched out his hand for a tip, but I spat a wad of Sam's Club toffee nut and okra chewing gum instead. Fuck you, Dolan, I heard him mumble as I backed away, laughing to myself. And then I tripped. Over a VHS tape. That tape! Well, all I can really say is that I have a law degree from Trump University, mail-order diploma received with a cardboard cutout of DJ T munching on a taco bowl, and I was raging mad and ready to sue. I walked up to the Walmart manager, but he was too busy pouring sawdust on the corpse. Apparently that's how you clean up a dead body. Kind of strange, but whatever, that's not the point. I wiped the blood off the Looney Tunes tape with the ply of Sam's Club brand toilet paper and ruminated over the message from the departed. Why did he want the tape so badly to begin with, and what could have possibly been on the tape that was so bad that he would take his own wife, cause his wife to murder him, take his own life? Now, I don't know what you do in this situation, but for me it was as easy as 1, 2, 3, and I ain't into new math. I jammed the VHS tape back into my cardigan pocket, broke into the employee break room, and... well, this was odd. Unusual. Unkempt. There was an employee training video playing on screen, but I couldn't quite get myself to turn it off. A pale, greenish baby puke pyramid with a giant eye perused right into my soul, while I felt strangely at home. Ah, shit, sorry. The manager, who was name tag revealed to be Mr. Sam Club Walton himself, volunteered, pulling the plug on the VCR. Hypnosis was a mild inconvenience for sure, but as he did apologize, I let him know it was okay and invited him to some moldy juji fruit that I kept in my back pocket. No longer under the ravenous clutches of Walmart brand mind control, I threw in the Looney Tunes tape, hit play, smiled a wide toothy grin, anticipated the slapstick antics of the anthropomorphic Warner Brothers characters that I grew up with back in the 1950s. Now, if you've ever watched a Merry Melodies cartoon, you know that there's this tune that they tend to play as an intro, with the Warner Bros. WB logo presented as a zooming out shield of arms. But what I saw was not the classic Looney Tunes theme song. It wasn't the classic Looney Tunes theme song at all. The characters? Listen, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Lou Reed and Metallica Lulu Project, but it was a really wily thing. Lou Reed was a rock and roll elder statesman who read poetry about himself as a female hooker over Metallica's trademark Black Sabbath heavy metal riffs, and the album was a huge hit in America, Canada, and southern Madagascar, but I've got to tell you, that kind of music sounds more than a little strange when it's coming out of the mouth of the eponymous Dr. Wile E. Coyote. A bird. A bird. I've been chasing a bird. But how can they say that the bird is the word? I'll flip you the bird and tell you to fuck off. There's a message in my alphabets and it says fuck your mom. Well, I've done it. I'm dead. Call me Oedipus Rex. I'm done chasing bird meat. I'd rather eat lead. I know that sounds drastic, but riddle me this. Fuck shit, piss, ass, dick, fuck shit. Ugh. Cursing in a children's cartoon. I've lived for a pretty long time in my life, but cussing in a child's cartoon was foreign to me. The cartoon camera, or whatever you call it, zoomed into the tip of Wile E. Coyote's nose, which was smeared in some sort of white powdery substance, before zooming in on his bulging bloodshot eyes, and finally, jagged, dark green, razor blade coyote teeth. I let out a scream, but in a Walmart employee stockroom, no one can hear you scream. With no other choice but to continue watching the tape, that's what I did. As it turns out, the Looney Tunes show, quote-unquote, does star the legendary Warner Bros. Mascot Bugsy Bunny and the eponymous Daffy Duck, but the manner in which they're presented is odd. In this cartoon, they're roommates and go through Seinfeld-style sitcom moments together. The tape began with clips of what I could only assume were past episodes. As per usual, the meat of the episode began with Bugs, historically the Looney Tunes' central protagonist, as a stand-up comedian. He stepped up to the microphone in front of an unseen audience while they awaited his stand-up routine. Bugs let out a cough, and, well, he rolled his eyes as if he was dead. The audience burst out in laughter for some reason while I took a bite of a Kellogg's Corn Pop breakfast cereal bar that I stole from a disregarded aisle earlier. What I saw next wasn't in good taste either.
What's the big deal with smelly vaginas?
Bugs started?
I mean, really.
Sounds of crickets chirping played while I stared at the screen agape, chunks of half-eaten corn pop dangling out of my mouth.
Fine. Tough audience. Alright, docs. I've got the Comedy Store prescription for ya.
Bugs took out a sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah. As y'all motherfuckers know, I'm a cartoon character and can't die from a shotgun blast.
Bugs paused. He grinned a widened, toothful grin that made me yelp in terror. Normal people don't smile like that.
I'm going to need...
His pupils gyrated, symbolizing motion as if he was looking through the audience.
a volunteer.
Within seconds, a fat, bald, big-nosed douchebag wearing a trademark fedora, his favorite, came up to the stage. As a fan of the Golden Era Warner Bros. Motion picture cartoons, I immediately recognized him as the backwards hunter Elmer Fudd.
That'll do, Doc.
Bugs Bunny handed Mr. Fudd the gun, and Elmer did that thing with his eyebrows that perverted Gentiles do when they're going to commit adultery. Difference was, Elmer was about to feed his bloodlust. But now you believe me, disbelieve me, in fact, whatever, but Elmer Fudd straight up fucking shot Bugs Bunny right in his fucking furry rabbit face. Bugs Bunny's head exploded while chunks of various photorealistic Rabbit Man extremities flew into the cartoon camera, and I let out a shrill shriek of terrifying horror. This was not, could not, be a real episode of the Looney Tunes. Greatly disturbed and hoping to go on my personal 15 so that I could use the bathroom, I called in the manager to complain. I pulled the plug on the VCR, you fucking idiot. Great! A non sequitur! Good for nothing Scrooge, man! I flipped him the finger, quit my job, put my cardigan back on. I was deeply, profoundly offended by the tape and Mr. Walton's misbehavior, and figured that my business was best taken elsewhere. I went to the bathroom in the aisle and swiped a few toothbrushes and a vat of sicking toothpaste before picking up the chair from the furniture department and walking out with it. Grader was dead. If you've been fun along like a good boy, you know that, but who the fuck knows with you? No one cared about the stolen goods. The metal detector had been removed so that they could dispose of the body without risking the thing going off from a gold tooth or something. I picked up a pint of expired milk from the defectives bin and chugged before tossing the thing all over the floor and picking up the big red corded phone that they use for requests and complaints from impatient customers. "Clean up on aisle 7, I joked before belching and hanging up, spitting milk all over the telephone receiver. I wet my mouth with a Sam's Choice towel before heading out through the back door. The walk back home, quote-unquote, was mostly pleasant. A sunglasses-wearing teenage boy on a skateboard in a bear suit told me to go fuck a chair. That wasn't very clever. I shrugged and kept on carrying the thing en route to my special Weshel Whittle dumpster. When I finally made it back to my house, I planted the thing on the sidewalk, pulled my back, and realized in horror that I left the tape back at the Walmart employee stockroom. What if someone else saw the tape and was deluded into an untimely self-imposed death? Good thing I care about no one else but myself. I let out a chuckle. Guess I'm going to solve the world's population problem. I grimaced, grabbing the top of my dumpster and chucking myself in. Now, when I do this, I normally land softly on some trash bags, banana peels, used feminine hygiene products, but this time, something firm and strangely warm was... Oh no. Oh no. No, 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 no. It wasn't just any strange, firm, warm thing that was situated under me. It was a body? A dead body. A corpse with sawdust sprinkled on top of it. I flew open the dumpster top for light, and to my shock, horror, and bewilderment, Cobain, the headless, bloodied, freshly sawdusted corpse of Cobain, was lying in my dumpsterous home like the horse's head from Godfather Part 32. What could this all mean? Was there time to wonder what this could all mean? People would think that I murdered Kurt Cobain. I let out a gasp, bit my lip, rubbed my lip after realizing I left a mark, picked up Cobain's corpse, tossed her right out of the dumpster. My right foot pinky toe fell out and rolled off the sidewalk into the street like a lonesome chicken finger, but who gives a shit? Well, apparently the neighbors did, because I heard a scream. In my disheveled calamity, I'd forgotten to realize that putting the body out there in public would make it seem more likely that I myself was the killer. Unwilling to wait for the pigs, cops are pigs, to arrive, arrest me, and try me for murder, I jumped out of the dumpster, accidentally stepping on Casey's hobo jacket. I heard a crunch, which made me realize he may have had something worthwhile in his pocket. Even though I'd eaten pilfered Walmart goods earlier, I was self-diagnosed diabetic, so I was hungry again and hoping that the dead man was carrying with him some delicious Fritos corn chips and hopefully a can of Sprite would be nearby. But no. Upon my investigation, it was... you won't believe me because you're an asshole, and that's okay because you're an asshole, and probably think 2 + 2 = 5, but there it was. The Looney Tunes show VHS tape, the foot crunching, had only taken off an outer piece that wouldn't keep it from still fitting into a VCR. Someone had jammed the Looney Tunes VHS tape in the greeter's jacket. But why? Blue and red lights flashed while a morbidly obese woman, I judge people by their weight, so assume we Mr. Phoenix right, pointed her finger at me from a 4-story apartment window and shouted, "There he is, officer! There he is! He murdered the American icon, Tom!" I managed to hold back a holler, which would have drawn extra unwarranted attention to my person, and made a sprint down an alleyway, hopping over a picket fence into a long-neglected junkyard. An also morbidly obese, chocolate-skinned kid called me over.
"Hey, hey, hey!"
he screamed.
"Try this on. They'll never catch it. They'll think you're a whole other person. Hey, hey, hey!"
Okay, exhausted and delirious from my 15 seconds of fast-paced running, I threw on the curly red-haired wig. This changed my perception of overweight people, so I thanked the young man and proffered him a single glob of singing toothpaste as a reward. Even with my clever disguise, I knew that I had to stay out of sight and out of mind. Perusing the junkyard for abandoned cars to hide in, I discovered a raggedy, rusted-looking wood-boarded shack with one open window. Clutching my wig so as not to return to my old self, I hopped in before looking, expecting nothing but dried air, disheveled mice, and asbestos. Instead, there was a desk. And a Zenith boob-tube-style Golden Years era antenna television. And a VCR. I stared back and forth at the VCR and the Looney Tunes tape like Lawrence and Hardy or Abbott and Costanza or some other silent-era comedy act. This had to have been destiny. And I was Destiny's child. Fittingly, I decided that my new red-haired person name would be Beyonce, male version of Beyoncé. Beyonce slammed the tape into the VCR, hit the play button, and braced for the remainder of the show. Beyonce. You know how people tend to think about how their life hasn't always been easy? That's me, I guess, but at the same time, I know that many have it worse. What I do, in times of excessive stress, is eat. Or perhaps play with my balls, but now felt like neither the time nor place for either one. The next scene to meet my eyes was an oddball, to say the least. The dwarf-heighted redneck cowboy character with a deep southern accent, Yosemite Sam, was sitting on one of those doctor office table bed things that they put a thin papery sheet on top of.
Give it to me straight, Doc,
Sam asked, sorrow in his eyes.
What a gots is?
Epididymitis, the doctor responded. It's when your balls get so twisted that there's torsion. It's amazing that your pain level is only a 7 out of 10. In extreme cases, they need to remove at least one of your balls from your scrotum.
Well, ain't that just shooting jackrabbits?
Yosemite responded before. Fuck this. I don't want to even say it. It's disgusting. Disturbing. It makes me wish I never learned what a cartoon was. But it happened, and I'm not gonna lie. Yosemite Sam shot himself in the balls with his gun. Crimson red liquid squirted out of Yosemite Sam's testicular region while he gaped at the screen in horror. This was disgusting. I know I said it before, but really, fuck this shit. It might be funny if you're a woman and don't know what it's like to have aching balls, but I'm a man, and this is horrible. I ran my hand into the VCR's tape slot and was ready to yank the sucker out until I saw something that I simply was not ready for yet. The next scene. The Tasmanian Devil was at the grocery store checkout line. Taz looked around, confused and agitated that 12 people were in front of him.
Bleh!
Taz alerted.
I guess we'll just have to wait our turn, son,
his down-to-earth father suggested. Taz blurted out like a disruptive child with a terrible disorder.
No reason to get feisty, son. We just gotta wait.
Taz looked displeased. He tapped his finger on the candy rack of the checkout aisle. Then he spat on the ground. Then even his normally mild-mannered father got pissed off.
You need to keep your manners, son.
Taz's dad assertedly, through gritted teeth, asserted. The scene changed to Taz lying in bed, overhearing his mother and father talk smack against him. I think our son's R-worded, Taz's mother suggests.
Oh, nonsense, dear. He's just got some growing up to do. He'll catch up with the other boys someday.
The look on Taz's face while he clenches his bedsheet and thinks the situation over broke my heart. It isn't that he looks sad or that he's about to cry. It's just firm, pale-faced. You could tell that Taz didn't know how to handle the criticism from his maternal and paternal parental units. Taz stayed up all night, clenched his stuffed dinosaur with his eyes open. As darkness turned to dawn, turned to time for school. The scene changed at Taz in the principal's office, with his parents called in while his teacher showed them various doodles he'd been drawing during science class. The teacher and a noose? The teacher and an explosion. The teacher and a pencil jammed between her teeth while a beaver chews on her and eats her alive. You know the drill. Taz gets expelled while his mother and father cry. As for me, I could never have been ready for the scene that followed. Not in 100 million billion gazillion years. Taz was at church, wolfing down all of the communion wafers and drinking all the wine and grape juice before belching.
That's it! Out! Out! Out!
The preacher yelled, tossing the Tasmanian Devil out of his furry ass and out of church. That was a strange scene for a children's cartoon, but what made matters worse... Listen, I feel bad for telling you this, but get ready. It's time for you to grow up. Be prepared, like a good Boy Scout. Because Taz came back with a tank, and a grenade, guns, ammo, a missile. And he spun. And he spun. Inside the church. And as he spun, the force
Like a tornado, like a hurricane. He killed and he killed. Arms flying, legs in the air. He killed all of those poor innocent people. And then he took out his assault rifle and he shot the preacher in the face. Blood, guts, bones, sinew, skull pieces, pieces of pages from the Joseph Smith translation Bible. This was too much. I let out an angry scream and aroused police sirens within seconds, but I didn't care. They could come and get me for all I cared. Who they really should have been arresting was whoever made this horrible fucking Looney Tunes Lost episode VHS tape. The scene changed one more time. It was a stage with various podiums. Daffy Duck, Lola Bunny, Speedy Gonzales, those Gophers, Sylvester Cat, Tweety Bird, Foghorn Leghorn, Pepe Le Pew, Petunia Pig, the Roadrunner, they're all there. All of them. And they're all running for president. But first, Speedy begins, let's dispel with his fiction that Peaky Bosser doesn't know what he's doing. He knows...
There's that mesmerized 40-second Hollywood speech again,
Sylvester asserts while his supporters applaud. Fuck?
Will I?
Pepe begins.
Shut the fuck up,
Daffy responds.
I'll annul your delegates and deport you back where you were born, Frenchie. You're deplorable.
Fuck was this?
Well, I say, Foghorn interjects, protecting Second Amendment rights is a constitutional requirement of a senator. As a senator in my native state of...
Suddenly there was an audible shotgun shot. Heard. Then multiple audible shotgun shots. Heard. And some really shitty still shot animation, but not just animation. Claymation. All of the characters turned into clay. Red clay. Blood red clay. That melted into puddles of clay. All of the Looney Tunes. All of the Looney Tunes were dead. I got it now. I finally got it. At first, I thought it was all an editorial on the decay and the quality of the Looney Tunes brand in an attempt to reach today's kids, but no. Well, yes, it was about reaching today's kids, but it wasn't about a sharp decline in quality that involves Looney Tunes as comedians or babies or basketball players. It was about change. It was about changing the law. Enforcing new laws. These animators were out to save the world. A pitiful world. Our world. And if Hollywood had any power, any sway at all, they could do it quickly. At a young age. They could mold young minds. Our youth. They could save lives. My eyes widened like saucers. The tape hit static and it was at an end. I ejected it, grabbed it. I jumped out the window, getting cut up and bloodied and bruised from the nails of the splintered wooden boards, but I did not care. Tape firmly in hand, I ran, and I ran, like a flock of seagulls, empowered by the spirit of the Looney Tunes socio-political agenda. I supernaturally held my stamina and made it past my dumpster, over the greeter corpse, javelined my middle-aged body over my stolen chair, and eventually I was back at Walmart. I rang the counter bell. "I demand service!" I screamed. The lady cashier stared at me like I was fucking nuts before offering me an F-word, that means cigarette, which I declined for conscientious as well as health-related reasons. Finally, he came back. Mr. Walton, with a balled-up fist and angry brow. He was pissed. "I see that you stole my tape," he began. Now hand it back to me before I conveniently lock it in a vault that no one can ever open while you narrate your story to handfuls of dozens of jewel-eyed miscreants on the internet, none of whom will ever believe you. Expected me to fight back with words, but all I had was an object. 2 objects. The Looney Tunes VHS tape and the faggot I was smoking. Channeling my inner John Rocker, I fastballed the tape right into Mr. Walton's skull. Sam Walton exploded. His innards rained on me like Nickelodeon slime, but I didn't care. I saved the world from gun violence. That was the most important thing. Or so it was to me. In all honesty, the police arrived shortly afterwards, since the cashier phoned the cops, probably concerned about losing her job due to her boss being popped like a balloon by a VHS tape or some shit. The officers cuffed me, though, curiously enough, they took me to a white padded room instead of the downtown precincts. They didn't even ask me much of any questions. Some tall, muscular guy wrapped me in a jacket, and I had no idea how to get out of it. They tossed me in the can. From what I gather, gun violence in your world is still a thing, and nothing has changed, despite all of my hard work and manslaughter. I hope this letter finds you. I wrote it with my own blood, bit into my own flesh to produce a medium to write with, using pieces of jacket as paper. My carrier pigeon anxiously awaits her cargo. Washington, D.C., I understand that you're slow to change, and that when new faces get voted in, they're quick to change spots and become just like who's already been in there. But please, drain the swamp. Change the laws before it's all too late, before the children have no more beloved cartoon characters to grow up on. And every musical icon shoots himself in the head. In the meanwhile, I suppose I'm just a man, alone with his thoughts. And a curly red wig. But no amount of television-based commercialization could change my own personality and way of life. I can tell you that much. Not even with all the fucked up shit I've seen and lived through. What I'd do for a Bud Light right now. Dilly, Dilly. The end.